The Chapel of the Hermits by John Greenleaf. Whittier. I do believe, and yet, in grief, I pray for help to unbelief, for needful strength aside to lay the daily cumberings of my way. I'm sick at heart of craft and cant, sick of the crazed enthusiast's rant, professions smooth hypocrisies, and creeds of iron, and lives of ease. I ponder o'er the sacred word, I read the record of our Lord, and, weak and troubled, envy them who touched his seamless garment's hem, who saw the tears of love he wept above the grave where Lazarus slept, and heard, amidst the shadows dim of Olivet, his evening hymn. How blessed the swineherd's low estate, the beggar crouching at the gate, the leper, loathly and abhorred, whose eyes of flesh beheld the Lord. O sacred soil his sandals pressed, sweet fountains of his noonday rest. O light and air of Palestine, impregnate with his life divine. Oh, bear me thither. Let me look on Siloah's pool, and Kedron's brook, kneel at Gethsemane, and by Gennesaret walk, before I die. Methinks this cold and northern night would melt before that orient light, and, wet by Hermon's dew and rain, my childhood's faith revive again. So spake my friend, one autumn day, where the still river slid away beneath us, and above the brown-red curtains of the woods shut down. Then said I, for I could not brook the mute appealing of his look, I, too, am weak, and faith is small, and blindness happeneth unto all. Yet, sometimes glimpses on my sight, through present wrong, the eternal right. And, step by step, since time began, I see the steady gain of man, that all of good the past hath had remains to make our own time glad, our common daily life divine, and every land a Palestine. Thou weariest of thy present state, what gain to thee time's holiest date? The doubter now perchance had been as high priest or as Pilate then. What thought Chorazin scribes? What faith in him had Nain and Nazareth? Of the few followers whom he led one sold him, all forsook and fled. O friend, we need nor rock nor sand, nor storied stream of morning land. The heavens are glassed in Merrimack, what more could Jordan render back? We lack but open eye and ear to find the Orient's marvels here, the still small voice in autumn's hush, yon maplewood the burning bush. For still the new transcends the old, in signs and tokens manifold, slaves rise up. Men, the olive waves, with roots deep set in battle graves. Through the harsh noises of our day a low, sweet prelude finds its way. Through clouds of doubt, and creeds of fear, a light is breaking, calm and clear. That song of love, now low and far, ere long shall swell from star to star. That light, the breaking day, which tips the golden-spurred apocalypse. Then, when my good friend shook his head, and, sighing, sadly smiled, I said, Thou minst me of a story told in rare Bernardine's leaves of gold. And while the slanted sunbeams wove the shadows of the frost-stained grove, and, picturing all, the river ran o'er cloud and wood, I thus began. In Mount Valerian's chestnut wood the chapel of the Hermits stood, and thither, at the close of day, came two old pilgrims, worn and grey. One, whose impetuous youth defied the storms of Baikal's wintry side, and mused and dreamed where tropic day flamed o'er his lost Virginia's bay. His simple tale of love and woe all hearts had melted, high or low, a blissful pain, a sweet distress, immortal in its tenderness. Yet, while above his charmed page beat quick the young heart of his age, he walked amidst the crowd unknown, a sorrowing old man, strange and lone. A homeless, troubled age, the grey pale setting of a weary day, too dull his ear for voice of praise, too sadly worn his brow for bays. Pride, lust of power and glory, slept, yet still his heart its young dream kept, and, wandering like the deluge dove, still sought the resting place of love. And, mateless, childless, envied more the peasant's welcome from his door by smiling eyes at eventide, than kingly gifts or lettered pride. Until, in place of wife and child, all pitying nature on him smiled, and gave to him the golden keys to all her inmost sanctities. Mild druid of her wood paths dim, she laid her great heart bare to him, its loves in sweet accords. He saw the beauty of her perfect law. The language of her signs lie new, what notes her cloudy clarion? Blue. The rhythm of autumn's forest dyes, the hymn of sunset's painted skies. And thus he seemed to hear the song which swept, of old, the stars along, and to his eyes the earth once more its fresh and primal beauty wore. Who sought with him, from summer air, and field and wood, a balm for care, and bathed in light of sunset. Skies his tortured nerves and weary eyes? His fame on all the winds had flown, his words had shaken crypt and throne, like fire, on camp and court and cell they dropped, and kindled as they fell. Beneath the pomps of state, below the mitred juggler's mask and show, a prophecy, a vague hope, ran his burning thought from man to man. For peace or rest too well he saw the fraud of priests, the wrong of law, and felt how hard, between the two, their breath of pain the millions drew. A prophet utterance, strong and wild, the weakness of an unweaned child, a sun-bright hope for humankind, and self-despair, in him combined. He loathed the false, yet lived not true to half. The glorious truths he knew, the doubt, the discord, and the sin, he mourned without, he felt within. Untrod by him the path he showed, sweet pictures on his easel glowed of simple faith, and loves of home, and virtue's golden days to come. But weakness, shame, and folly made the foil to all his pen portrayed. Still, where his dreamy splendors shone, the shadow of himself was thrown. Lord, what is man, whose thought, at times, up to thy sevenfold brightness climbs, while still his grosser instinct clings to earth, like other creeping things? So rich in words, in acts so mean, so high, so low, chance swung between the foulness of the penal pit and truth's clear sky. Millennium lit, vain, pride of star-lent genius, vain, quick fancy and creative brain, unblessed by prayerful sacrifice, absurdly great, or weakly wise. Midst yearnings for a truer life, without were fears, within was strife, and still his wayward act denied the perfect good for which he sighed. The love he sent forth void returned, the fame that crowned him scorched and burned, burning, yet cold and drear and lone, a fire mount in a frozen zone. Like that the gray-haired sea-king passed, seen southward from his sleety mast, about whose brows of changeless frost a wreath of flame the wild winds tossed. Far round the mournful beauty played of lambent light, and purple shade, lost on the fixed and dumb despair of frozen earth and sea and air. A man apart, unknown, unloved by those whose wrongs his soul had moved, he bore the ban of church and state, the good man's fear, the bigot's hate. Forth from the city's noise and throng, its pomp and shame, its sin and wrong, the twain that summer day had strayed to Mount Valerian's chestnut shade. To them the green fields in the wood lent something of their quietude, and golden-tinted sunset seemed prophetical of all they dreamed. The hermits from their simple cares the bell was calling home to prayers, and, listening to its sound, the twain seemed lapped in childhood's trust again. Wide open stood the chapel door, a sweet old music, swelling o'er low prayerful murmurs, issued thence, the litanies of Providence. Then Rousseau spake, where two or three in his name meet, he there will be. And then, in silence, on their knees they sank beneath the chestnut trees. As to the blind returning light, as daybreak to the Arctic night, old faith revived, the doubts of years dissolved in reverential tears. That gush of feeling overpast, ah me! Bernardin sighed at last, I would thy bitterest foes could see thy heart as it is seen of me. No church of God hast thou denied. Thou hast but spurned in scorn aside a bare and hollow counterfeit, profaning the pure name of it. With dry dead moss and marish weeds his fire the western herdsman feeds, and greener from the ashen plain the sweet spring grasses rise again. Nor thunder peal nor mighty wind disturb the solid sky behind, and through the cloud the red bolt rends the calm, still smile of heaven descends. Thus through the world, like bolt, and blast, and scourging fire, thy words have passed. Clouds break, the steadfast heavens remain. Weeds burn, the ashes feed the grain. But whoso strives with wrong may find its touch pollute, its darkness blind, and learn, as latent fraud is shown in others' faith, to doubt his own. With dream and falsehood, simple trust and pious hope we tread in dust. Lost the calm faith in goodness, lost the baptism of the Pentecost. Alas! The blows for error meant too oft on truth itself are spent, as through the false and vile and base looks forth her sad, rebuking face. Not ours the Thebans' charmed life, we come not as cathless from the strife. The pythons coil about us. Clings, the trampled hydra bites and stings. Meanwhile, the sport of seeming chance, the plastic shapes of circumstance, what might have been we fondly guess, if earlier born, or tempted less. And thou, in these wild, troubled days, misjudged alike in blame and praise, unsought and undeserved the same the skeptics praise, the bigots blame. I cannot doubt, if thou hadst been among the highly favored men who walked on earth with Fenelon, he would have owned thee as his son, and, bright with wings of cherubim visibly waving over him, seen through his life, the church had seemed all that its old confessors dreamed. I would have been, Jean-Jacques replied, the humblest servant at his side, obscure, unknown, content to see how beautiful man's life may be. Oh, more than thrice blessed relic, more than solemn rite or sacred lore, the holy life of one who trod the footmarks of the Christ of God. Amidst a blinded world he saw the oneness of the dual law, that heaven's sweet peace on earth began, and God was loved through love of man. He lived the truth which reconciled the strong man reason, faith the child. In him belief and act were one, the homilies of duty done. So speaking, through the twilight gray the two old pilgrims went their way. What seeds of life that day were sown, the heavenly watchers knew alone. Time passed, and autumn came to fold green summer in her brown and gold. Time passed, and winter's tears of snow dropped on the grave mound of Rousseau. The tree remaineth where it fell, the pained on earth is pained in hell. So priestcraft from its altars cursed the mournful doubts its falsehood nursed. Ah, well of old the psalmist prayed, thy hand, not man's, on me be laid. Earth frowns below, heaven weeps above, and man is hate, but God is love. No hermits now the wanderer sees, nor chapel with its chestnut trees. A morning dream, a tale that's told, the wave of change o'er all has rolled. Yet lives the lesson of that day, and from its twilight cool and gray comes up a low, sad whisper, make the truth thine own, for truth's own sake. Why wait to see in thy brief span its perfect flower and fruit in man? No saintly touch can save, no balm of healing hath the martyr's palm. Midst soulless forms, and false pretense of spiritual pride and pampered sense, a voice saith, what is that to thee? Be true thyself, and follow me. In days when throne and altar heard the wanton's wish, the bigot's word, and pomp of state and ritual show scarce hid the loathsome death below, midst fawning priests and courtiers foul, the losel swarm of crown and cowl, white-robed walked François Fenelon, stainless as Uriel in the sun. Yet, in his time the stake blazed red, the poor were eaten up like bread, men knew him not, his garments' hem no healing virtue had for them. Alas, no present saint we find, the white cymar gleams far behind, revealed in outline vague, sublime, through telescopic mists of time. Trust not in man with passing breath, but in the Lord, old Scripture saith. The truth which saves thou mayest not blend with false professor, faithless friend. Search thine own heart. What paineth thee and others in thyself may be. All dust is frail, all flesh is weak. Be thou the true man thou dost seek. Where now with pain thou treadest, trod the whitest of the saints of God. To show thee where their feet were set, the light which led them shineth yet. The footprints of the life divine, which marked their path, remain in thine. And that great life, transfused in theirs, awaits thy faith, thy love, thy prayers. A lesson which I well may heed, a word of fitness to my need. So from that twilight cool and gray still saith a voice, or seems to say. We rose, and slowly homeward turned, while down the west the sunset burned, and, in its light, hill, wood, and tide, and human forms seemed glorified. The village homes transfigured stood, and purple bluffs, whose belting wood across the waters leaned to hold the yellow leaves like lamps of hold. Then spake my friend, thy words are true, forever old, forever new, these home-seen splendors are the same which over Eden's sunsets came. To these bowed heavens let wood and hill lift voiceless praise and anthem still. Fall, warm with blessing, over them, light of the New Jerusalem. Flow on, sweet river, like the stream of John's apocalyptic dream this mapled ridge. Shall Horeb be, yon green-banked lake our Galilee? Henceforth my heart shall sigh no more for olden time and holier shore. God's love and blessing, then and there, are now and here and everywhere.